TV show.
Good morning, everyone. It is October 19th at 10:02, and I'd like to call the Northern Lake Champlain Basin Water Quality Council meeting to order. So we will kick off by not doing a round of introductions, but if there's anyone new here that this is their first or second time joining and wants to say hello, we encourage you to do so.
Aaron, you want to say hello? Or maybe you're still connecting. All right, I see here it's trying to connect to audio for Aaron, but Aaron is here from Vermont River Conservancy. So
Great.
everybody else is the usual suspects. So
Okay, great. Do you want to pull up the agenda?
yeah, sure.
Dan sent these materials through yesterday, so we just want to see if there's any suggested changes to the agenda. Otherwise, we'll make a motion to approve.
This is Kent, so moved.
Anyone want a second?
I'll second.
Okay, agenda is approved. And any public comment on items not on the agenda today? Excellent. Okay, so we're going to review the minutes from our last meeting in September.
I can walk through that quickly. Everybody see them there?
Yes.
Okay, great. Everybody take a minute to look at the attendance list, make sure that's correct. Okay, so the meeting was September 21st, full quorum there. 9 of 9, a couple of guests. Report on the RFQ for project managers. Extensive discussion over the DEC guidance, chapter 6. And again, I encourage all of you to, okay, emailed it out probably a month ago, and keep looking at those and you know, talk to your representatives who participate in those Act 76 meetings with the state, typically on a Friday, you know, so Watersheds United Vermont and the Association of Conservation Districts and your RPCs, any municipal folks, you know, you can talk to me or talk to Dean Pierce. And also a lot of excerpts. I did a lot of cut and paste right out of the chapter 6 thing. So read that through if you want more detail. We did talk a fair amount about the dashboard issue or the list of projects. Again, that spreadsheet that I sent, I encourage you to all keep looking at that and send edits, corrections to Karen Bates so she can update the watershed projects database and all. And let me know about them as well too, just so I can flag them as well. And we talked about the co-benefits again, and an overview of our formula grant, which we signed and is just getting started. We haven't spent any money from it, obviously. Call for proposals issue, still deferred action on it there, and then Dean Pierce with some very helpful analysis on phosphorus reduction targets. And so that was that.
Great. Any changes or comments on the minutes that Dan just reviewed? Nope. Okay. So I would make a motion to approve the minutes from September 21st. Make a second.
This is Kent again, second.
Okay. Motion to approve the minutes.
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
Aye.
Thank you. And Ken is away this week, hence why I'm stepping into the role of facilitating this meeting as vice chair. So thanks for bearing with me as I sort of stumble over some of these approval Robert's rules. Okay, So on to the next agenda item. Dan, do you want to introduce this or do you just want to hand it off to Karen?
Yeah, I'll introduce it here while I vamp for a little bit here. So as it says right there, as in the agenda, the key question, we've been talking about this issue of how do we prioritize projects. The purpose of, sending out an email to you guys, right in Act 76, your purpose of the BWQC is to establish policy and make decisions for the QIS regarding the most significant water quality impairments. So one way to talk about it is like, what are the hot spots? What are the problem areas that exist in the basin? And then prioritizing the projects that will address those impairments based upon the basin plan. So I sort of broke that down into two questions here. What areas are suffering the most significant water quality impairments within the basin? And what are some clean water projects that have highly efficient phosphorus removal rates and have high overall total phosphorus removal potential? So while Karen introduces the topic, I'm going to bring up this little table I created into a Word doc. And what I really hope is we just sort of have a conversation. We got plenty of time. Our main, I like to have a good hour at least, if not more, on this. And I'll just kind of fill in this little table I created and sort of talk about, what we already know, some existing projects, but what are some of them that are not, what are some projects that are sort of in the design mode, or maybe even moving towards implementation, and what are some new projects that are needed. And I broke them down into sub-regions. So I'll just have Karen introduce that while I put this into a Word document that I can use to type in stuff as we have this discussion. So I'll turn it over to Karen. You there, Karen Bates?
Yeah, sorry guys, I'm just trying to press buttons here. So I was asked to come and contribute to the chat here, which I think is an important thing to mention, that that I don't have, or the agency, other than the list of impaired, stressed, altered, or impaired, altered waters. We don't have any additional priority areas for focus based on water quality problems. So that's that. If you have co-benefits that would like to see, specific waters of those waters focused on, other than for phosphorus, like we've got some bacterial impairments, then that would be a reason to be focusing on, let's say, Mud Hollow in the La Platte watershed. So we can, so that's the first part for just specific impairments. We can look at some of the maps just to see where we might have some water quality data that has suggested issues or problems. But in terms of whether it's a priority for you, it would have to be a priority for you then. Otherwise, it's not a priority. Existing projects addressing this already under design. So that'll be for you guys to add primarily, because you guys know the projects you're working on. And then I can add anything else that for some people who aren't there. So if we were to, so let's we can go ahead and look at each of these areas in our atlas. So I will, where am I?
Do you want to share and do ANR
I do.
Atlas? Or?
Do.
Okay.
So I think you have to allow me.
I can stop share here or there. All right, you should be able to go now.
All right. So maybe this will also be, let's see, did the share elite happen?
You should be able to, one participant at a time, you should be able to share now.
All right, here we are.
Yeah, and I can type while people talk a little bit, but if you want to talk with Champlain Islands and all, we kind of keep it high level, but again, a chance to sort of look at that email I sent you. What's the source? What's the discrete location? What's already under design, and what are some new projects?
Yeah. All right, so here are the islands, and what you see over it are all the sort of discharge points of stormwater into a no, those are the culverts that exist. So lots of culverts on the islands. Bridges, more of those. Culverts give you a sense of where there may be culvert work to, reduce alignment because you're improving geomorphic compatibility, but there are not a lot of streams in this area, so that may not be as big of an issue. Let's see, so we'll go in here. Trying to move my screen and it's very slow. The islands have larger streams that we don't know a lot about, and that's one thing that Molly's going to help out with. So we've got and where there's ag land, then that's going to be a focus for a lot of that work. And so I think in terms of Keeler Bay, which has been an area where people have complained about, and we do have some water quality data for the bay itself, it's a concern, therefore the watershed's a concern. And Molly is working on that. And so she'll have a list of projects being developed for that area. And then, the other areas, the shoreline erosion, because we support bio, let's see, what do we call it? Bioengineering for shorelines where there is erosion. They may not get a lot of phosphorus for that, but that's work that's being done for Friends of Northern Lake Champlain. So I don't know the specifics on that. Going up to, let's see, we're in to North Harrow. We have, Cary Bay, and this is the Alberg Passage right here, which actually ends up getting a lot of nutrients from Missisquoi River. So there's not a lot to be done here to maybe reduce large amounts of phosphorus, or the majority of the phosphorus that might come through, but there still is contributions from the shoreline. There's lots of development there. So lawns, roads, and there could be, Friends of Northern Lake Champlain and I have talked about maybe doing some more lake-wise in this area. It's a very rocky shore. It may not have a lot of erosion, except where you have a slope coming down. Let's see, so that's that area. And then, of course, you've got, in Alberg, you have some large wetlands right in the middle here. And so there could be wetland restoration here, as well as other areas, because there's a lot of clay soils in the area, a lot of ag. And so one would assume that the wetland restoration is could be a focus where ag land is being retired. Obviously, where people are farming, ag land is a priority in most areas now. So that makes it a little bit more complicated. And here I'll show you, we have wetland restoration potentials for areas as a layer. So that's one way to look to see where we, at least through the mapping, have been able to identify areas that if we were to restore them back to wetland, there would be a significant amount of phosphorus reduction.
Yeah, we did have a presentation a couple of months ago from Laura on this, so it was very helpful. So yeah, I'd encourage everybody to look at that wetland restoration layer there.
Mm-hmm. And then where wetlands have been drained, they probably also altered streams. So where there could be, stream channel and floodplain connection projects would also be a potential for these areas where there's ag, especially. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that I can really talk about here. We've got some private roads is an area where I think there could be more work in terms of inventory, and we will be, I think there's going to actually be an assessment or a funding source outside of the QUISPs to inventory private roads for work. And the islands aren't going to be a big source of that because it's fairly flat, and the private road work is going to be focused really on those areas where you might have some sort of steep or slope that you'll definitely have then runoff from the road going into a stream or wetland area. So,
What's that possible funding source, Karen?
well, there's discussion that there'll be another funding source to look to identify or to fund private road inventories. But so that's still in discussion.
Right.
Chat.
Is that, I just want to pause here for a second. Is that good for the islands? I just want to turn it over back to the group to see what, if they want to add.
Yeah, so back to the group.
I want to give you, if not to put you on the spot, but if you want an opportunity to talk about some of your initiatives in the islands, please do.
Yeah, I was maybe even hoping that Tom was still participating, and he's brought forward several ideas in North Hero. And we are applying to do an assessment. We did stormwater management plans about 10 years ago for 9 Franklin County and Alberg communities, and North Hero hasn't been done yet. So we were hoping to have an assessment done. We started thinking about doing a shoreline assessment, but we found with so much private development, we're trying to that we learned about through our shoreline socials this summer. We've gone to properties and we've looked at culvert replacements, shore improvements, but there are still some connectivity problems in and out of Pilots Bay, where there's it's an area that is really restricting the circulation in the lake. So as far as individual projects, Tom, if you're there, do you want to talk about North Hero?
Yeah, sure. I'll throw a couple things in there. So Kent is correct. So we did submit a proposal, and originally we were looking just at shoreline stuff. And then this summer, some very successful outreach programs that introduced Lakewise to a number of North Hero residents, and have had several, I want to say at least 4, if not 6 to 8 Lakewise assessments. Some have been very well, they've all been successful. Some of my neighbors have already gotten their sign. I still have about 3 or 4 projects to do before I get my sign. And then what we started looking at beyond just the shoreline is moving inland a little bit. Karen already mentioned the wetland restoration, which is one target area. And then also the private roads were mentioned. And while I've seen some issues with the private roads, again, we don't have large slopes in that the private roads are going into rivers or tributaries. But we have noticed that there are some direct discharge culverts off these roads into Lake Champlain that could be a problem. So we're trying to expand our approach a little bit just beyond the shoreline, since that's mostly residential development. And then again, looking at wetlands and private roads and other projects that we might be able to target.
And I'll mention that that is the strategy that we're taking for in South Hero for our Keeler Bay Lake and Watershed Action Plan, which is looking beyond the shorelines at sort of this, what we're calling this, the sub watershed of Keeler Bay. So assessing the farmlands, fields, wetlands, private roads, and shorelines to sort of identify water quality restoration projects to hopefully help improve water quality. And so, yeah, I think it's been we're sort of kicking off field work, hopefully within the next couple weeks. And so far we've gotten a really good response from landowners, and there seems to be a lot of enthusiasm around this project. So I definitely see it being a successful model to implement in other towns. So we're excited to see the projects that are identified through that. And yeah, just helping to push any sort of bioengineering projects to lakeshore owners. And a lot of that can be done through the avenue of Lakewise. And it's, yeah, we definitely seen an uptick in that, an interest in Lakewise, and sort of buzz around town. So we're excited to hear about that. And I do want to note that this past summer, we did water quality testing in Sucker Brook and Mud Creek in Alberg, a tributary leading into Pilots Bay and North Hero, and then a tributary leading into Keeler Bay. So we still haven't gotten all the results yet. So to be honest, I haven't synthesized the data yet, but I think that will help be a good indicator of some potentially target areas.
What's the name of those streams in what town again?
So there's Sucker Brook and Mud Creek in Alberg, unnamed tributary leading into Pilots Bay, and then unnamed tributary leading into Keeler Bay.
And in terms of land use, so the Sucker Brook that comes down is actually, there's a golf course around it. So there is opportunities for addressing impervious as well as restoring natural resources, streams, the stream that goes through it. And that is actually a project that we've had, that was the Alberg Stormwater Master Plan project, was working with the golf course there. So I don't know that anybody's had much success. I know various, Franklin County NRCD and Friends of Northern Lake Champlain, and I don't know, Molly, if you've looked there too, but I think what might be needed is, especially after the water quality sampling results are out, that somebody who has some connection with the Alberg golf course could potentially talk to them. Kent provided a great example of how that can work in the Swanton. Is it the Swanton golf course? Lake Champlain?
Yeah, it's called Champlain Country Club, and it's actually, it is located in Swanton. And one of our board members is a member at Alberg, so we've got a direct connect there.
Yeah, I think, if you want to put down a possible project, Dan, that would be an area to.
I got that on the list. Maybe let's segue to Swanton, St. Albans, Georgia, Swanton, St. Albans, Georgia.
Yeah, here we go.
And I'll send out this list that I'm typing so people can add more to it. I'll do it as a Google Doc or something. So.
Mm-hmm. So with St. Albans, they've got their MS4 responsibilities, so projects that they're doing, especially up here in the city. Swanton, it's really going to be the shoreline in this area. That's that part of Basin 5. And we do know that there are ag fields that are flowing in some areas straight to the lake that then maybe affect some of the shoreline water quality. But there's also sort of the residential and development in this area that can be addressed. And Kent can tell you more about then. They have actually gone in and done inventories. The one thing that could be focused in on those inventories are maybe sub watersheds around where the outfalls are. And I know they're focused on one area, I think in this area, and trying to work with the agency of ag, which is, not your area, but if they want to have the shoreline residents sort of agree to projects, they're going to have a sense that somebody's working with the farmers as well. So I think they're doing a great job there.
Karen, are there any streams there in St. Albans, because it's an MS4, that are heavily incised or eroded, where it might be a joint, half flow restoration plan project with the MS4 city town paying for their proportion of the runoff and then using Quist money, analogous to the Potash Brook project we've been talking about? anything
Yeah.
analogous?
Yeah. So there's a Rug Brook that is probably a good example, and they, let's see, because there's an area, I think at the top of Rug Brook, where there's the senior, there's like a senior community living area, and park and ride, and there has been work in that area. There's some thoughts about looking at the brook just behind the elementary, the St. Albans, what do you call it, instructional academy or elementary school, right there off of the I-89, like access road to the main street. So that has been one project that they've looked at for addressing stormwater runoff from a number of areas. But there could be maybe some for stream work in that area as well.
Okay.
I think one thing maybe to ask Stacy Pomeroy, the river scientist in the area, is the geomorphic assessments for the Rug and Stevens and Mill River are somewhat old, and it may be an opportunity to maybe re-look at them again. I know that there's one area of Rug Brook as it goes, heads close to the Mill River, it's a road with a B, forget it now. But anyway, the stream there is very straight. So could there be more geomorphic or floodplain connection projects? I think that's a really good point, Dan.
Okay. And Swanton?
Swanton has fairly small streams that in this area that will directly go directly into the lake, and the stream and there a lot of ag in this area, and the farmer that's in the area may have some, is not quite as, it may not be as easy to work with.
Well, it's going to be hard if it's a regulated farm, it's going to be hard for us a lot of hoops to jump through to use our funding. Kent, anything there in Swanton, Kent? Or?
Well, yeah, on that North McQuam shore, I think that's the only part that's in Basin 5. There's actually 37 miles of shoreline to Swanton, but I think a lot of that is going to be in Missisquoi Bay. But you see how it ends in that delta, and you've got Hog Island there. We've identified 65 roadside projects that could be done with the town of Swanton. We could put graveled swales in, improve culverts. And
right, but those are all hydrologically connected municipal roads, general permit connected segments.
I think so.
Yeah, okay, so that's off the table for us.
Right.
It's good you're doing that work,
but we have applied. We are going to apply for a full design and construction at the town beach, which is it's on the map right now. If Karen can point it to you, yeah. But we've got that. We've got a 30% design prepared, and we're going to go for full implementation and construction there to collect water that's coming somewhat from ag lands, but there's just a lot of stormwater that's being collected there. We've tested there with the La Rosa funds this year. We haven't found it to be near as much of a problem area as about 2 miles south of there. There's a trib that comes in off some ag lands, as you mentioned, and our preferred method is to go and take the results directly to the landowner and work with the landowner. And I've got work scheduled there as soon as the crops come off, is to go out and walk that with the landowners. And we're going to try to bring some interest there, but these do not fall under QUISP funding because these are not these small non-regulated farms. So, I mean, it's an area that working on the rut along the road, that's not going to accomplish much. But if we can get back on those ag lands, I think we will. But it's going to take the right approach.
Yeah.
But if you were to do stream restoration in these areas, that would be.
That's my idea. There's a good stretch there that would be perfect for a two-tier ditch.
All these ditches.
We could either do a two-tier ditch or a wascob. Wascobs are difficult to maintain. We've run into problems with that. We've got one two-tier ditch in right now that's performing very well. And, but it's an area that's gonna take some cooperation with landowners to pull it off, and we've just gotta roll up our sleeves and try.
So Dan, can two-tiered ditches be QIS funded if it's not an NRCS funded project?
It's all, if it's a regulated farm, we cannot touch it.
Nothing on it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Well,
right,
it just means they have to find, the ag, you just go to the ag people and get their money. It's just,
Right.
you can use Quist money for it though.
Yeah. Okay, so as we go down, then I think that's it for the St. Albans area.
But Georgia, you already have the whole the Georgia shoreline assessment, that's already in the works and right.
Yeah,
Yes.
and again, the one thing that might be interesting there is where there's an outfall that's been identified in the shoreline assessment, maybe look for ways to look above it, sort of the entire watershed itself of that outlet, and maybe look for farms that are smaller, that are outside of the regulations of the non RAP farms. Because I think that's the only thing missing from that. And there may be some roads, but that would be town roads. So then the only thing with the Mill River in Georgia area is that it is pretty, it's unraveling to some degree. So it's sandy, it's easy to erode. We have a lot of sediment that we measure at the mouth of the Mill River. This is what comes into the St. Albans Bay area, and I'm way out of. I gotta get down here.
Is that historically doing that, or are there a bunch of new discharges that are causing heavy volume?
No, it's been doing it for a while, but obviously with increased rains, intensity of rains, and then development in the Mill River area, it's more susceptible to erosion. So there could be more opportunities, I think, to do in the Mill River, to look at floodplain restoration, wetland restoration, where the lands have gone out of ag. And so maybe there needs to be another, an updated stream geomorphic assessment. That would be something to ask Stacy, or with this functioning floodplain tool, that there'd be a way to look at the potential restoration projects for the Mill River.
And
Also finding sources of stormwater. I know Kent's been working with the elementary school, and there is development in the village.
is there any chance, is it feasible to potentially do one of those sort of in-stream projects where you put the logs in the river and the little willow plantings, and you try to do things to make these naturalistic check dams, beaver in-stream,
Yeah, I think.
man-made beavers dams.
Right,
and
right,
stuff
right.
like that.
Right. You're trying to catch the sediment so it'll raise up the bed of the channel, and so that the water can access the floodplain, which means there's less erosion downstream. So I'm going to have that discussion with the Rivers program for the Winooski Basin planning process, because it's a new process, and I think what needs to happen is a better understanding of where those practices can happen. So definitely let's investigate and look to see where those opportunities might happen.
And we do have one contractor on retainer now. The guy who lives in Newport is Wind and Water Consultant. I'm spacing his name right now, but did a lot of work in Montana, and he's doing work in the upper Missisquoi, and he's part of that Missisquoi River Basin Association. I'm spacing on his name right now, but he had a lot of good examples of his work right in the streams to slow them down and make little log piles, all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, you've got to note, if you want, especially for the phosphorus credits, finding areas where it's not very, you don't have a steep slope, so you're looking for fairly flat areas. That way, then by raising the channel, you're going to allow flooding over a larger area. And so I think that's what we'll get that information that's going to be helpful.
Great.
identifying those projects that are going to work well in especially the Champlain Valley.
Okay, I'm trying to move things along quickly, just we talked about the other
Right.
Fairfax.
Fairfax area,
It's just a tip. It's just like the southwest corner of Fairfax, but there looks like to be a stream right at the tip of, right in that corner.
yeah, no, I can't, nothing comes off the top of my head. There was the Fairfax has a stormwater master plan, so it would be to go back to that and see if anything's happened. I think Dean may have some information from Amanda. Amanda was very much involved in a couple of projects in that area.
All right.
All right, so Milton is really, it's the Allen Brook watershed, which flows into then Colchester and Mounts Bay. So Allen Brook, the Mounts Creek area, those areas have finally gotten some attention through the work of the Milton Public Works Director, what was his name?
Dave Allerton, who's now gone to St. Albans.
Right. So hopefully those projects will continue, but this is a great area because if you want stormwater, management for a pretty good price, infiltration is the way to do it. And you've got sand in this area. So I am not.
Yeah, and we have a project using our transportation dollars that's looking at doing actual stream sampling.
Mhm.
And water quality testing that Andres is doing, because the town does not want to get Allen Brook officially designated as impaired and stuff. Right now, it does not have a flow restoration plan, discrete or an impaired stream in Milton, so they want to keep it that way. Stacy mentioned, is it up in the northwest corner? Is it Stonebrook or something? Or
Yep.
as I think it's never been studied or never had an FE fluvial erosion thingy.
Yeah, it's actually, the bugs are really good. So it's in great shape. And it's in forested area. It's the lower part is one we actually thought was good enough for A1 or B1 for a while, but it looks like we got some yellow bugs now. Well, yeah, so it's fair. If work is going to be done, it would be higher up. It's also a lot of ag land. So the question would be, are you going to be getting projects that are really going to be focused on what you need? I think it's going to be
right. Well, the question is if there's any in-stream work that could keep it from getting impaired. But all right, we'll just any other places in Milton for right now, or and then there's a little bit of Colchester. Karen, can you zoom out a little bit, Karen Bates, and see if Karen Adams has any comments in the again in Basin 5. It's kind of not too much of Colchester, but there is some.
Arrowwood. Let's get into
I think it's a pretty small portion.
Trout Brook. Yeah, it's again, this is more the rural area for Colchester, and I think that these would be areas for potential wetland and stream work. There's already been a lot of wetland work done right in the Melts Creek area, which is great. It's town road issues because it's so steep. There may be opportunities for private road, REI in the Melts Creek watershed because you do have some steep areas. And so that might be an area for prioritizing, if they ask us. I think I'm lost again.
And what was the name of you said it was Stone, the stream in Colchester for wetland area?
Oh, well, I mean, Melts Creek.
Melts
Creek.
Oh, that portion, the portion that goes into Colchester. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Allen Brook. There are areas where you might be able to do some assessment. Oh yeah, natural resource restoration, but definitely look for private road REIs in that area. I think would make the most sense.
Okay. Let me just pause for a second. Karen Adams anymore? I want to be sure we get to everything.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to offer. I think the things that Karen has already suggested wouldn't be municipally led projects. And so that's hopefully those are things that partner agencies would be interested in taking on.
Right.
And that's such a great point, because that, you know, there's not been one group that focuses on Mallett's Bay. The town's done an incredible amount of work, but they could certainly use help. So I think that for groups that want to extend a little further, this is an area ripe for projects because of infiltration potential. And they've got smaller farms too that are outside of the RIPs, horses here and there. And there's a fairly big camper park. What do you call it? Like a trailer park?
RV park or RV
Yeah,
park or
trailer park on Bay Road that could have a lot of work done, and it just needs community connection and
Okay. And then Karen Adams, do you get any particular members of your conservation commission that are into water quality, or?
The Conservation Commission as a whole is definitely interested in water quality. I think the challenge that we have, and I alluded to this in a separate email with you, Dan, is that the town is so heavily burdened by regulatorily required projects that we don't have the capacity or any funding that we could dedicate to efforts like this. So even Lone Pine, which I think is what Karen Bates was just mentioning, the campground, you know, I believe they are a 3-acre site. And so my guess is their appetite is probably going to be limited to what's required to them under those permit requirements versus anything that's above and beyond. You know, I think that was brought up as one of the main tensions between these new funding sources and all of the work that needs to be done, is it doesn't perfectly line up with the $20 million we have to spend under the PCP. So we're, you know, unfortunately just not in a position to take things on that are outside of that requirement.
Yeah, and as you do the PCP work, and again, I'm still engaged in discussions, I won't say battling, but we're, you know, DEC does sound willing that if you have a project that is joint MS4 meeting its PCP and plus some property meeting its 3-acre, but 20% of the runoff comes from the non-regulated sector that potentially QIS could fund that 20% cost. You know, so keep that in mind as you do projects, you know, that we might be able to help out, you know, to cover that non-regulatory share of the runoff. So
I think that's really important.
I appreciate that, and that's definitely something that we'll keep in mind. As Karen mentioned, we're trying to do a lot of work in the Bay Area, and so we've got different projects at different engineering and design stages. So I can keep that in mind. I think the challenge is that the town sort of feels like we have enough on our plate as a regulated entity and is really looking for these non-regulatory projects to be completed by others because
we basically just need somebody to form a Lamoille Watershed Association and a Northern Chittenden County Watershed Association.
But you know, that's sort of a tall order, because then you've got to find someone who has enough money to hire someone who's a project manager.
No, I know, Karen. I'm not disagreeing. So
you're just being facetious. But
it is. We have these little gaps. You know, we have some big groups, and there are these gaps that we have. Lewis Creek, which is awesome, and we have the NRCDs, which have many calls upon their time. We have the NRCDs, but there is no Lamoille River Watershed Association, for example. That's all. So it is what it is. I'm not casting blame. That's all.
But the one thing I wonder too is if there's enough, if we can find a very discrete project, that it then just gets put out to a consulting firm, and they
and we technically could just do that directly as the QIS. There's a straight up design. We as the QIS can just, you know, potentially do it. We would prefer that one of the organizations do it because they're the partners. But if we had to, we can easily take care of the design. We hire engineers all the time. We don't really want to get into the construction management business or meeting with landowners. We'd do it if we had, you know, if we could. So.
So that, you know, all along Indian Brook, then there could be projects with the residential areas that flow into them. So if a group wanted to focus a education outreach effort, especially in the Indian Brook watershed, I think it's ripe for opportunities to reduce runoff from,
Yeah, we specifically can't do
oh,
outreach.
right, I forgot.
But anyway, let's keep moving along here, since Dave Wheeler's on the line.
Yeah.
Dave, any other areas? You've already mentioned the Potash Brook, and I'm already doing what I can to bird dog Neil Kamen to try to make that,
Hey,
give his
Dan,
blessing for that. Any other areas?
Dan, this is Remy.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Remy. Yeah.
Just one area I wanted to highlight before we move on. The conservation district's been discussing with the Winooski Valley Parks District a number of water quality projects around Colchester Pond, particularly the access road leading to the parking area that consistently washes out and contributes a good amount of sort of hard packed gravel and soil. You can see the red dot there.
Yeah,
That's the municipal road, but if you zoom in, there is a long access road that for many, many years consistently washes out. There's also a number of other shoreline projects where there's significant erosion due to soil compaction and overuse of recreational areas. So I just wanted to highlight some of those before we.
Yeah, no, that's good. Thanks. Appreciate it.
yeah. Pond Brook itself, I think, that was the one I was thinking of. That goes directly to Mallett's Creek. I'm right there, right? And that could be another. That's where some residential education could happen in that area, that residential area that's just off the village. Karen, what's the name of this place again? Something Manor or anyway.
Yeah.
So residential
Sorry,
areas.
I was on mute. Up here.
Yeah,
This is just like the Village Drive area.
Village Drive. Yeah. So lots of sand. They have septic too. That's a little bit of concern, but there may be opportunities there. All right, we're going down.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
South Burlington,
Oh,
Burlington.
one other. So in terms of RAPs, like horse farms in off Poor Farm Road. There, and Remy, you might know about this area because you guys have worked on it in the past. But it's a farm, it's a horse farm that has very little area with lots of drainages in it off of Poor Farm Road, and it flows right into to Smith Creek. So there may be additional work that can be done there. Follow up. They just had a new owner, I think. And then again, residential assistance in the Smith Creek. I always forget what it's called. Smith Hollow, Smith Creek. And I know Colchester has done a lot here already. But they're bacterial impaired, so.
All right. Any more Milton, Colchester? Just want to move more towards
Okay.
central Chittenden County now.
Yeah.
South Burlington, Burlington.
Yeah, the only other area is the Fish and Wildlife access in Mallett's Bay. And the stream that runs under Champlain Marina. That's a project area.
And then Champlain Marina is where?
It's
Is
right
that-
next to the Colchester, the Mallett's Bay Fish and Wildlife access. That whole area
Okay, yeah, all right.
is I mean, it could be a fairly large project.
All right, but it's state land, right?
Can you, well, the
No,
Champlain,
we could bug the state to do it. I mean, technically, maybe we could fund it, but ideally we'd get the state to do that, so.
oh yeah, I know, they're interested. For the Fish and Wildlife access, they have wanted help with that. They look to the NRCDs often to help out with the projects.
Okay,
So I think that's just a whole category, Fish and
yeah,
Wildlife.
yeah, no, there definitely is, yeah, I mean, especially if they can hire engineers, do all of the designs, then we can help with the funding. just want to, in the interest of time, just keep moving on, and I know we want to definitely get to some of the non-MS4s in the south of the county. Dave Wheeler, we've already talked about potash and the Potash Brook project. Any others that come to mind?
Yeah, we have identified some other ones. Working with Fitzgerald Environmental, they kind of did a larger analysis of potential sites around South Burlington. There's also the one down by CWD that they thought would be a good fit for floodplain reconnection project.
That's the Potash Brook one, right? Right.
Sorry,
Champlain Water District.
well, there's that one, and then there's the one by Grandview.
Okay, yeah, and the Grandview one, yeah.
Yep. So those two are kind of the best two sites they identified.
Yeah, and you presented on those already. Okay.
Yep. And then
Um,
there's a few other things like south of Butler Farms, Oak Creek Village. There's a farm there. I think that'd be a good opportunity to restore some ag lands to wetlands.
Is it a dormant farm?
It's active, but
Is
it's
it
one of those, like,
regulated?
I'm not positive, but I know there's been kind of murmurs of that might be future development, turn into housing, similar to most of the farms in South Burlington. But
Although with the new zoning law, it's not like they'll get much density out of it, so.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. But if not, then maybe we just even buy like an easement or whatever and just expand the area that they're not farming.
Yeah, well, any of the wetland area is gonna be off limits to any kind of development will have a substantial buffer, so it might be a chance to do a two-for project. They do some housing on the stuff that's okay to build on and then restore the wetlands on the other part, so that's good to
Right.
know about, yeah.
And just from, during the Rye Meadows development, that's the most recent housing to the north. They were having some issues during construction with construction site discharges to the stream. But it was tough to call them out. I mean, we had them make improvements to the site and they got it all wrapped up, but the water quality in the stream was way worse than what was being discharged from the construction site because of the runoff coming from that farm. So, more just kind of anecdotally, I've observed firsthand that water quality is not great coming from that farm.
So why don't,
anyways,
Dave,
pardon?
I don't want to forget that. So can you let Remy know specifically what the name of the farm is, the location, maybe through an email or text?
Yeah,
Or-
definitely. Yep. And then something else that's kind of interesting that came up recently, the UVM Hort Farm. They have that in-stream pond that they were irrigating from, and basically the berm of the dam blew out during the Halloween storm of 2019. And they went through a whole analysis of whether they're going to build the berm back to restore the dam, but they would have to get a dam permit from the state, which they did not have previously. And apparently somebody at UVM high up did not want to take on that risk and liability. So we, as a separate project through the basin program, we're constructing an irrigation pond that's also going to manage stormwater.
It's a little more south, Karen.
Okay, thanks.
South of, yeah, right.
Yeah, right in that area.
Go onto that orange thing.
Yeah, a
Yeah, that's it right there.
little south of that even. Yep, right there.
Yeah, where the X is there.
All
Yep,
right, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the in-stream pond. So kind of in the northeast corner of the field, it goes up the hill to the east more there. Yep, up there, we're putting a pond right there. So that way they can better, well, so they have irrigation water at the top of the hill, because right now they don't really use the top of the hill. It takes a lot of energy to pump water uphill. So they'll be able to farm that area using this irrigation water from the stormwater pond. But we explored the idea of building a bunch more stormwater ponds throughout their site for irrigation water in lieu of the dam. And in the end, they went with a third option. They're going to run a potable water line from, like CWD water and irrigate that way.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So what's the project from a water quality standpoint?
Yeah, so that all coming back to, so that, quote unquote dam is not going to be rebuilt. It was in stream, so there might be an opportunity to do something with that.
Okay.
Whatever it is, like turn it back into a more natural.
Does that stream have a name?
It's part of Bartlett Brook, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. It's a trib of Bartlett. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
So go ahead and one thing that can happen there, 'cause the dam would have to be completely removed and the stream and
Right.
floodplain restored.
Exactly.
So contact Karina Daly of the Vermont Natural Resource the NRC, and she could probably, the TNC is also looking for dam restoration projects that they might be able to help with. So get it on their list and they may be able to find someone to manage that project.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Dave, copy me on that because I'm in touch with TNC on mostly Winooski Basin Dam removal, but
Yeah.
Mhm.
advocate for them. And also as a South Burlington resident, that's intriguing to me as well, too.
Yeah.
And I might poke UVM to, it's kind of more their property. So,
True.
A civil engineering class project. Love it. So,
yeah.
so in knowing that the bike path goes up here, along the going up to Spear Street, and
Yep.
I guess it's not here, but the Potash Brook or Trib is confined in that area. And I've
Yeah,
always
part of it.
wondered if there's potential to do some sort of project up there, the fields that drain the houses. There's some, ditched or concentrated flows. And then that whole area, I know it's heavily treed, but I thought that would be an area for a
Yeah.
restoration.
So we're actually intercepting those flows and
Yeah.
redirecting them to this irrigation pond at
Okay.
the top of the hill. There still will be, there's like a weir that'll act as a flow splitter where we're
Mhm.
sending, the majority of storm events to this pond, but in very large storms, it will overtop and flow back to the north in that existing ditch line. But yeah,
Mhm.
there could potentially be some work in that ditch line in the future.
Cool. Just want to keep things moving along here, and then we've got Kate Kelly here as well, too. So,
All right, just one last thing. So Dave, if you want to talk more stream restoration in the Potash Brook, give me a call.
Okay, sounds good.
yeah, Karen, do whatever you can to browbeat your colleagues to allow a portion of the cost. And Evan Fitzgerald's got all the details and Joe Bartlett on, different Brook, but
Yeah.
but Joe Bartlett, his colleague, they have all the details on that analysis there. And like I say, Neil does sound amenable to it. And the draft Chapter 6 guidance sort of suggests that, but it's do what you can. So, then we've got the whole part of Chittenden County, sort of southern Chittenden County of you got Shelburne, but all of Charlotte is non-MS4, all of Heinsberg's non-MS4, plus Lake Iroquois, et cetera. So we already have that Lake Iroquois action plan that Remy and others are working on.
If we're going to do for a Lake Iroquois, if we're going to do private roads ever, the roads that flow directly to the Heinsberg or the Pond Road there, I think that's the town road. So on the west side of Lake Iroquois and that Pond Road, those private roads could use potentially, and landowners in those areas could use maybe some assistance with stormwater management.
Okay. And just so you know,
just a
Sorry, go ahead.
clarification, this is Roger, Pond Road is a town road,
Pond Road, right?
yes.
Yeah, I was trying to remember if that was the right one. That's the town road.
Okay,
so we can't do anything on the town road.
No, But the private roads that come down.
Yeah.
right.
And then there may also be I don't know if Remy, oh, well, Remy probably has it, but I've always thought that there could be some stream restoration work on the east side of Pond Road in some of the larger fields that flow down to the to Lake Iroquois.
Right.
Okay. Does that stream have a name? It's just so there's some stream on the east side of Pond Road?
I don't think so.
No, they're just tribs.
All right. Well, we
Yeah.
call it, we don't want to call it Cross Brook or something like that.
Yeah. There's actually, there could be potential, oh, no, wrong watershed. Okay, we're in Shelburne right now, right? Upper Monroe, above the stormwater impaired area. Monroe, anyway, Spear Street, there could be potential projects there.
It's hard if it's flow, if it's an in-stream project, it might work. And Remy, thanks for your comments there. I'll add that to the document I'm working on. Okay, and then just so you know that Shelburne is doing a lot of work on updating their Monroe Brook flow restoration plan projects. Again, it's mostly regulatory because it's often about pond, stormwater treatment pond upgrades and runoff from the town roads. But I've told Evan Fitzgerald to do what he can to, if he sees a project that might have a component that treats non-regulatory runoff, to do that. So that, just so you know, Karen, that is going on in Monroe Brook. That's part of our helping the towns follow up on their phosphorus control plan. So there might be something
Fantastic.
comes out of that. So
Yeah.
and we got the whole McCabe stuff. I know Kate, I emailed you about that.
Yeah, we're still working on our project. Well, we have a project list and prioritized list and are working on design work now. So once that grant is wrapped up, we'll get that, document over to you with the list that can be updated, I guess.
And are all the projects already in the projects database or not yet?
Not necessarily, no. Some of
Okay.
those are newly identified.
But they will be, what's the rough deadline for when those projects will get uploaded?
So I think our grant should be wrapping up this winter, so maybe January, February.
Okay.
Don't forget Shelburne Farms. I know there's one area that could maybe do some work, or some bioengineered shoreline restoration would work really, really well. Just straight down from that Lone Pond, Lone Tree Hill, that area. People access it on one of the trail systems. And I just think it would, I don't know if anybody's actually sat down with the farm, with the, and talked about potential ideas. I feel like just to sit down would really be a great idea. If anybody, I don't know, Kate or somebody else wants to use that as like a project development grant and have a walk, I'd love to go too. Because I don't think they're always clued in on the resources that are available for restoration.
And then Kate, any what are the major initiatives in Heinsberg? You've got that ongoing project already for the wetland restoration behind the town office, right? Or
Right, behind the church, which is sort of next to the town offices. So that will.
what church is that again?
It's the United Church of Heinsberg, and that should be in the WPD already.
Yeah.
And we did receive funding to do that project, to construct that project this coming year. So that will be nice to get that checked off. And other Heinsberg projects, we're working on a sort of concept design for Lyman Meadows area, which is a development north side of, well, northeast, I guess, of 116. So that
is that a 3-acre permit or is that?
It's not regulatory.
Okay. All right, well, after you get the concept done, keep us in mind for final design. Once I'm finally in the process of
Right.
ready to hand out grants. I know we're
Okay.
we're not quite there yet, but we hope to get, you know, some money out this winter.
Got it. Got it.
One area that we've talked about a lot is there's a trip to the La Platte that goes up to St. George and the Rocky, whatever, golf course. And I wonder if it would even be, just make sense to have an assessment done, like a stream geomorphic assessment, to look for potential for plantings, and then as it flows into the La Platte in between, you know, Carpenter Road and this other road right here. You know, are there more opportunities for plantings of tribs? And Kate, I don't know if you've done any more investigation in that area, but it just seems like
Yeah, I have not recently. It's still on my list of things to kind of look at this fall and winter when things slow down, right? Because I'm sure they will.
Yeah. But I'm really wondering about focus tree planting in La Platte in this area.
Yeah.
And it may just be, you know, maybe Remy could help out. Just even finding landowners, sitting down and talking with them, and I'm not sure. Anyway, if you want to brainstorm, and if Remy's willing to help, or that might be one thing to put on the list as a potential.
Mm-hmm.
And not so much the mainstay, but it looks like the tribs.
Yeah, and La Platte is not impaired, so that's, you know, kosher to do that, so. Okay, any other ideas there? And there's a tiny sliver of northwest Addison County that's in our drainage. Anybody know anything about that?
Oh yeah, so long.
Yeah. It's like not the Lewis Creek drainage, because that's a different basin, right? Lewis Creek is a different basin,
Yeah.
right? It's
But the
very-
area that we've had communications with is right down on the shoreline here. And come on, where are you? There's all right. Well, go back to Holmes Creek.
Yeah.
So we are working with the Conservation Commission there. They had someone who was interested in doing some work there. And so the dam right at the mouth of Holmes Creek might be something that could be removed. Another thing that, you know, if you're going to talk to Karina, again, just finding someone who could very easily even put an intern on the project, because it's going to be pretty small, with the Conservation Commissions to help. But Holmes Brook might just need another geomorphic assessment, or we look at it for, a stream geomorphic assessment light was one that Gretchen Alexander and I had agreed would be good. And they haven't put money into funding it, because I think of the whole, well, this is yours, this is my discussion that happened. But there may be planting projects, which again, I think are a really good bang for the buck. And there's a community here that might be willing to do more planting.
So the idea of the dam removal, how does that address phosphorus removal?
So the stream does take some wonky turns. And if we can show that the stream geomorphic condition is out of whack, taking out the dam, you're going to increase floodplain area, which means then you get credits. Somehow the floodplain functioning floodplain tool is going to give you phosphorus credit for taking out a dam, if it especially where you have geomorphic conditions that are out of whack.
Great. All right.
It's a floodplain restoration project, basically. And you may have some other opportunities. There are bridges in the area that are, you know, maybe confined. The stream is incised. Holmes Creek is incised, especially where the area where the town owns it. So another plus, because a lot of it is town land.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, we've gone from north to south.
Okay. No. We didn't do Long Point. It's Long Point. Long Point's in Basin 5, or part of it is.
All right. Last one.
And I don't know if Kate, you've been in touch with them, but just put it down as, landowners interested, the association is interested.
Everything's blue. Where's Long Point?
I don't know. I don't know why it's blue. Let's see. Oh, here we go.
Where is Long Point?
So it's in Town Farm Bay.
Okay. In what
And that-
town?
Yeah. And so this is a whole other, Town Farm Bay is an area of concern. And I'm trying to get the Lakes program to put more monitoring in this area. A lot of some of it's gonna be Addison or the Lewis Creek, but a lot of it is all the Charlotte tribs that come here, Thorpe and Kimball.
Okay.
So there could be projects in, the Town Farm Bay watershed, let's say.
Okay. Cool. I want to keep Chris Rotler and the other legal eagles happy and get these policies adopted. So, thanks so much, Karen. This is exactly what I wanted to happen. This is a really good discussion. I will clean up. I've been typing the whole time. I'll clean it up and put it in a Word doc or a Google Doc, and so people can clean up and add comment to and stuff like that. But this is really good. I think a good overview for everybody of all the different types of projects in the area. So, cool. Any last minute questions before we move on to these policies? All right, Karen. All right, awesome.
All right, we'll see you later then. You don't need me for the policies, right?
No, we don't. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. So
Great, happy to come back.
all right. Okay, if I move on, Molly, here, just to going through. All right. So the first one is the conflict of interest policy. Kate Kelly, you had some edits. Which one was that to? What document was that to?
That was the procedures document,
Okay.
operating policies and procedures.
Yeah. All right, so we'll do the conflict of interest policy. Let me share my screen. All right, everybody see the conflict of interest? You should see that. Yep. Okay, great. These are just tweaks compared to the last time you look at it and track changes. These are just to dovetail with the language in the actual guidance document. So pretty much the same. Yeah, so that's basically it. It's yeah, there's basically this recusal language, which has been talked about a lot of times. So we actually get to voting on projects. Some of you may be conflicted out if you have a project that your organization is managing. And then this kind of language comes from our CCRPC internal policies. So it's the same concept of gifts or swag or all those 5-course meals we're getting taken out to. So that's that policy, and it's ready for action. Anybody want to do a motion to adopt?
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Okay, Dave Wheeler, all right.
We have a second.
You'll be the second, Molly. All right, you want
Yes.
to call the vote, Molly?
A motion to adopt conflict of interest policy, so moved.
All right. No objections. All right, so that one's done. All right, next one, the public participation policy. Share. Screen, sorry. All right, public participation policy, slight tweak to the language, the top to again dovetail with things from the state's language that was adopted from the guidance. And I had stolen this from Dean Pearson Northwest, so a little correction there to read CCRPC's public participation policy. And otherwise, it's the same document you saw before. So, and it's interim, so that if we ever did a want to get some feedback on it. Remind me that 8 months from now that we put this out for public comment and make sure people feel we're doing a good job and stuff like that. So there it is. Do. So we just need a motion on that one.
This is Remy. I'd make a motion to adopt the public participation policy.
I will second. All in
Okay.
favor?
Aye.
All right, and then the last one, I'm gonna bring up Kate's edits that she sent me here. On the procedure, because we had some. Oh, yeah, okay, all right.
They're really just typographical.
Yeah, but I'll bring it up just so people can see it. Thank you. All right, and the procedures here, again, pretty similar to what you've seen before, that nothing changes in the top. Little tweak to dovetail with the state's language, project identification is in there now. There's a whole bunch of stuff in chapter 4 that goes in much more detail about what a BWQ does. So I just referenced that so that people can, this is a general descriptive section. So I just have added that reference. This all stays the same. This alternate language just got cleaned up. There's that typo there. Thank you. So those are fixed. Basically, you designate the entities designate their alternates. The only group that doesn't really designate its own alternate is the municipalities, because the municipalities are selected by the Clean Water Service Provider. Yep. So there you go. So that's, just again, it's the same, just language mimicking what the state had. Cleaned it up a little bit. This is all new right here, because we previously had this language about different types of votes, 50%, 51%, 75%. But the state pretty much basically said, you got to have a quorum. It didn't really get into, majority vote. You got to have at least 5 votes, so you can't, if you had 5 people, that's a quorum, but you couldn't have a vote that was 3-2. You'd have to have it 5-0 and stuff like that. So this is straight out of the guidance document. So I just put all that in and deleted all the old text. So that's there. You vote to advance a project. Alternates can only vote if they're there and the serving as the alternate, etc. Majority vote, but you may adopt and implement a decision-making model requiring a greater proportion of votes. So you can kind of do that later. I kind of want to get these policies adopted because it's a deliverable we have to give to the state. So if you want to do it later and require 6 out of 9 votes or something, you can do that. So and then this stuff here about code of conduct is gone now because it's really all in the conflict of interest policy and the procedures stuff. Yep, and so that's the same. And then basically, little standing here saying basically, anything in here, you got to comply with what the Act 76, the rule and the guidance says. So that's that.
Any comments or changes? Okay, can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion, Molly.
Thank you. I
This
will,
is Kent. I can second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Did-
you.
Did we get 5 votes, Dan?
I think so, yeah. I see a thumbs up. All right, great. And Remy. All right. So that's all I've got, Madam Chair. I don't really have any updates from Quip staff. Nothing you haven't heard before. We're still working with the state on the Chapter 6 guidance. All the other quists, we're trying to move things along. I am talking to the state a lot about, like, before the Chapter 6 guidance is finalized, is it feasible if we had a project, to put together a rudimentary grant application, a basic checklist that says, yep, it's eligible, it's non-regulatory, attach a copy of an email from Karen Bates saying, yep, it's legit and it's in the basin plan, it's in the watershed projects database, and it's supported, so we can begin to get at least some design grants out the door. The scoring metric concept is still going to be under, we're several weeks away from that getting done, but I'm hopeful that even before Chapter 6 guidance is finalized, 2 months from now, that maybe we can at least get some, show a project to the state. It passes the straight face tests, looks legitimate. It's just design to give me the authority to start doing some grants and subcontracts. And then Karen Bates mentioned a lot of locations that what she called a SGA light, that's the Stream Geomorphic Assessment, LITE. And I did an email to all the river management people saying, like, are you guys going to study some project? Because the state has a contract with Bear Creek Environmental and with Fitzgerald Environmental for $100,000 set aside to do stream geomorphic assessment work around the state. So I just wanted to see, are they already studying some areas and all? But so hopefully some of that work can be done. So yeah, Kent.
It sounds like you're wrapping up. So before I let you go, our annual meeting is coming up in mid-November, and I'm sure I'm going to be getting questions from board members about the work we're doing on the council. And I hate to keep bringing it up, and you probably know you don't have the answers, but I'm going to be asked about a timeline.
Yeah.
And when we will actually be presenting our projects and when we can expect to have some money start flowing.
Yeah, and I'm gonna try to push the envelope and just get a copy, a Word copy of the design implementation block grant template and change the name to formula grant. Add some pages about, is it eligible? Have you done a something just to, and sort of put it on the state and say, hey, we're going down the track. Do you want to stop us or not? Because we have money right now, and technically we're allowed to spend it. So I kind of want to just force the issue by saying, hey, Kent has a bunch of projects or Kate has a bunch of projects. Are you going to say no to them, Neil Kamen? Stuff, to put it bluntly, to put it back on the state and stuff. So because the way the guidance process goes, it takes a while. So what day is your meeting?
The 17th. It is the Thursday before Thanksgiving.
And where is it?
It is in the Village of Swanton complex.
Okay.
Which is, and in the conference room there, it goes from 6 to 8.
Okay.
And we've got a new award to do more work on the Rock Basin, a heavy agricultural area.
Right.
Fitzgerald's are they're giving a announcement about the study that they have done, and we're going to combine our work, and we're going to get more intensive in that area with some innovative practices in the next couple of years. So
great. Okay. Well, one other point of information, I did put out another round of the RFQ for sub-grantees. I hope to approve one of the towns in Franklin County. I won't say which one, just out of deference to as I haven't done the formal analysis yet. Roger, can you touch base with the people, the parties that be a Lake Iroquois Association or the rec district, either whichever one of them wants to get pre-qualified with me to please do that application.
Yep, I'll take care of it.
You know, it's pretty simple. It's just a Word document that says, you know, tell us about some projects you've done, tell us about your people, you know, what are your charge out rates, et cetera. But it's a pretty simple form to fill out. You know.
Okay.
Any other updates from members or?
Dan, do you want to move on to discussing the agenda for the November 16th meeting?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, talking about the proposals and things like that. I think some sort of pre-proposal process is going to be a good idea because partially because of a procurement issue is that we want people to come to us with an idea that looks good and do sort of a rough, like, yeah, this passes the phosphorus straight test, but people shouldn't be procuring an engineer unless it's done competitively. So I don't want people going out there and already saying, yeah, I'm going to hire this firm right away. They come to us with a pre-proposal with some ideas, and then we're like going, yeah, it looks like it's going to pass the straight face test. Then when you go, because when you're putting together a formal proposal, you're going to want to have pretty firm costs, but you can't really write that firm proposal until you procured an engineer competitively to at least, you know, spend a few hours of their own money giving you a cost estimate in more detail. And they're not going to want to do that extra work unless they know they have the potential contract. So the main principle is, you know, when you procure an engineer or a designer as a sub-grantee, to solicit a quote from at least 3 firms. You have to send it to at least 3 firms. You don't have to receive 3 proposals, but you have to send it to at least 3 firms. You know, and then that'll be your competitive procurement. And then you should be able to keep that same engineer as you move down the line from final design to implementation. So that'll be the major topic, I think, is pre-proposals and stuff. So, and maybe co-benefits too.
Anyone have anything they'd like to add for the November 16th agenda? Ready to wrap, Dan?
I think so.
Well, thank you. And I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Can I have a second? Thank you. I will declare the meeting adjourned at 11:29.
So thanks, everybody.